Hi, this is Kim with www.embody-light.com, and I'm going to make a video to answer a viewer's question that I recently got. So the question was, somebody wondered why, it was a question concerning my last video, and why or how a being, um, why they would be described as wearing like certain modern day clothing or things that we'd attribute to this world. It was confusing. And it was confusing to me as well. So this is a little bit involved. I have actually I'm not the most visual person. I do get visions, but not on demand, not as I will them. They just come whenever they come. But I have seen some individuals that have crossed over dressed in different outfits. One guy I saw wearing a black and red flannel shirt, checkered flannel shirt, and I always thought it was odd. Why would it be like that? I wondered that myself. And because these things seem so much of this world. Well, I'm going to tell you a little story. When my brother died, he died as a 59-year-old male about a year and a half ago. And I actually, within maybe an hour or two of his dying, started to hear from him. Now, I know a lot of people say that's impossible. You're not going to hear from people right away. But this was a family member, and I started hearing the song, Will You Know My Name If I Saw You in Heaven? And I knew it was from him, and then he started communicating with me. So what I got an image of where he was. He was kind of not fully crossed over, but kind of in between the spaces. And what happens when somebody dies, that I find quite frequently, is that they stay with their relatives close to the earth plane for usually 3 days or till whenever the service is. When somebody passes over, and if you ever encounter a being who's passed over but earthbound, you can tell them to go to any funeral parlor for 3 days, for the day of the service, and 3 days after. There will be a portal open there that they can use to cross into the next dimension. So usually for those first 3 days or so, they're really close to us. And I heard from my mother in those few days after she transitioned. I heard from my brother, other family members as well. But when I saw him, he had a toddler with him, maybe 15, 18, somewheres, I'm going to just say between 12 and 18 months, this little toddler looked like. And my brother had had a son that died when he was maybe 10 months old. His name was Sean. And that was the little boy that was there with him. And I was like, it's been, gosh, it had been at least 20 years, maybe more like 25 years ago since that little boy had died. And how could it be that he's with Todd now as a baby, as a toddler, when he died so long ago? Did he stay as a baby and a toddler all those years? And no, that's not exactly what happened. What happens is we have an oversoul. And I've mentioned this book before. If you want any more information on it, get the book Oversoul 7 by Jane Roberts. So we can have up to 8 incarnations that we are currently living at one time. Not everybody does this, but many beings do. And so your oversoul, which is often called your higher self, remains in the dimension or density, I guess, that we could call heaven, which is really ninth density. So this oversoul sends out, you could call them energetic shoots, or their people, sends out different parts of itself for different experiences. So because I knew for a fact, what I thought was a fact, and I believe it is now, that Sean had already reincarnated and is living on the planet right now as another being. Um, Male in that life, but female now. And so I'm seeing him as this not infant toddler, wondering how could that possibly be? Well, what it was I got confirmation that yes, there actually is in, another individualized expression of him that is living on the planet right now, but that the oversoul will, when somebody dies and crosses over, the oversoul will send out a being that looks just like that person remembers them so they can recognize them. So Todd got to spend time with his son as a toddler for some time, getting to know him for the time that he missed. So that's how it works. And now I've had other instances where, and I've talked about this before, I had a lot of beings come to me in the middle of the night, usually, um, that needed help crossing over. I would find them in dream time. And one individual was, oh, maybe from the 1800s. There was a woman chasing a little boy who she thought stole from her. He was dressed as, just like you'd expect somebody from that time frame to be. And she was in this fancy dress, bouffant hairdo, and she's chasing him. Neither one of them know they're dead. They're kind of like, you ever see that movie Groundhog Day, where it's the same day over and over again? For some of those people, they don't even know they're dead, and they just keep acting out that scene on what happened before they transition. So that's how it can happen. So they'll come to you in whatever way you're going to recognize, because like I've seen myself, my higher self, I actually look Asian. And if when this lifetime ends for me and then my children pass over, say, they wouldn't even recognize me if I didn't come through as I look now. I mean, they might after some time, but they're going to want to spend time with that personality and that being that was incarnated with them. So that's how that happens. And I've got notes. Now, the, another concept I want to talk to you about, and this is um, a little bit strange. Let's just call it that way. I've known of two individuals lately that have actually crossed over, been deceased, and I'm just only going to speak about one of them, and I'm not going to speak real names or anything like that. But so this individual crossed over. He's deceased, and he's crossed over onto the other side. And so he had a specific kind of an important mission on this planet. When I saw him within a few days of his passing, maybe a week, he was actually in his ninth density form. He looked like it was a male, and he looked like a yogi in the lotus position, like like a spiritual leader. And what I got from that individual when I saw him was that he had an important spiritual mission, but he also had other beings incarnated at the same time on the planet who would now take the reins, take where he left off, and complete his mission for him, because they're all part of the same Oversoul group. So what would happen is the individual that did not die, that was another expression of himself, would have taken on more of the soul nature. It would have been like they would have probably thought they got an upgrade, or they had done some ascension work while they were here on the planet. But what it actually is, that a part of that other soul that had just died had actually joined them to a part of that energy to help propel them forward to complete their mission. And that does actually happen. And so the other being, I just, I don't want to, actually, it wouldn't be a good idea to talk about that being at this time. It would be too much of an infringement, because you'd probably be able to figure out who I was talking about, too much of an infringement on the family. But so that's how it happens. We pass away, we go to the other side, and we have a reunion with our family. our friends, we get our life review. We get to see what actually happened in each moment, why it happened, how we were impacted that we may not have realized, and how our actions impacted others. So all of that happens. And there's this reunion party where you reunite with all the people that have passed before you. So then, what then sometimes happens, and I've known a couple people that this has happened to. My mother was one when she finally crossed over. And now I believe my brother is as well, because I just heard from him the other day. And it's been a year and a half. You'd think that everything was fine, that he's healed, blah, 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 ready to go on to his next incarnation or his next planet or whatever he does. But what he said was he's been working on not letting things bother him so much, which I thought was strange. You're in this other place. Why are things still bothering you? Well, it's because of the things that, and there was a lot that happened to him on this earth. It was because of the things that happened to him on this earth that he's still coming to terms with. And so they do actually have, and my mother was here. I didn't see this, but it was confirmed by another psychic individual that I worked with way back. She was actually in what you would call like a hospital, a spiritual hospital, and they were helping her to come to terms because that lady suffered a lot of abuse in her life and was very traumatized. They were helping her to come to terms with everything that happened. And her body was, because the body is the physical manifestation of the soul, her body was so badly beaten up, for lack of a better term, that she needed some help to reintegrate all of the parts of her that had fragmented and been traumatized. So she spent a while there. So that's how that works. It's it's just that we go home, reintegrate, and we continue to heal what we needed to heal. If we have family members here that are still grieving, we're still connected to their energy, and it causes like a drag or a slowing on our energy for clearing. And I just had my Wizard of Oz poster up. I One of the things I bought during Mother's Day month. Um, we're all trying to, this just kind of signifies our journey through life. We're all trying to find our way back home. And as all of those characters in that movie discovered, everything they were looking for, they already had all of the tools within themselves to help themselves. Then, when they get to where they're going and they find Oz, the man behind the curtain, he's just this little scrawny old man that they were all afraid of and didn't need to be at all. And that's kind of how life is. We're all just trying to find our way. We make mistakes. We go to the other side. We're better off trying to rectify our mistakes here, because what you didn't rectify here, you work on rectifying from the other side, which is often quite a bit harder than if you were still here. And then for some beings, when their purpose isn't complete, they come right back into, or fairly soon into, another lifetime to help them complete their mission. So, with that being said, this was just a quick little video to tell you some of the ways that I've seen. Oh, there was one more point I wanted to make. So, one of the things that always would confuse me is I might hear somebody channeling somebody that was a character in history from long ago, but I happen to know that they're reincarnated as individual A. And I'm thinking, how could that be? I used to think that the other person was actually making it up. Well, no, that's not. Because even though person A, like I could take the instance of my nephew Sean, even though he is a living person that's got a life on this planet now, I could still connect with the energy of that individual that was Sean if I wanted to channel and connect with him, which I never have. Um, so it is possible. So with that being said, I love you all. Have a blessed day. My website is www.embody-light.com. I do hypnotherapy, psychic readings, mostly energy healing, though. I've got a lot on my site if you check it out, and I've got classes and stuff coming up in the fall. So I love you all and have a blessed day. Bye bye.